before we analyse Germaine Greer, who was born in Melbourne, Australia, I'd just like to say a few words about Australia, because I've had some feedback from a couple of astrologers from Australia who are not really seeing any so-called southern horoscope weightings. And of course it could be because this is all wrong, this theory. It doesn't, there's no such weighting. But just let's look at a map of Australia, and we can see that Northern Australia is actually tropics. So what might be happening is that really people are equally weighted, like Richard Dawkins has supposedly the equal weighting, that we're really seeing both, but because we're expecting to see the northern signs, that's what we're picking out. We're expecting to see the regular signs, so we're not really noticing that there might be a difference. And the other thing I want to say about Australia, I've also heard that farmers in, I don't know about all Australia, but Northern Australia, they do actually weigh their harvest at many times of the year other than their fall, their autumn. And again, this might be because the seasons in this equatorial zone, this tropical zone, they're not as distinct as lower and higher latitudes. Okay, so Germaine Greer was born January 29th, 1939 in Melbourne, Australia, which is southern Australia. Here is her regular chart. Okay, she has the Sun opposite Pluto, quite a strong aspect, and also Mercury opposite Pluto as well. Sun in Aquarius opposite Pluto in, is it Leo or late Cancer? I can't quite see, but the aspect is most important. And it's in Leo, of course. Yeah, it's in Leo. If we swap that round, she'd have Sun weighted more towards Leo and Pluto in Aquarius. And I just want to emphasize again that when we look at these reverse charts, the black ones, we really have to remember that this is a weighting. It's not a, black and white, either or, either a north or a south chart, either a Leo or Aquarius sun. It's really a bit of both, unless somebody was born at the North Pole or the South Pole, they'd have a bit of both. That's why it's called a dual zodiac or a six sign, dual zodiac. So flipping Greer's Northern Aquarius Sun and Ascendant horoscope makes her a double Leo with Sun and Ascendant in this fixed fire sign. Her Sun is still in the 12th house, which I think correlates well with being a symbol for the former repressed half of society, women. Her early acting endeavours with the Cambridge Footlights, Cambridge, England, while lecturing at the university, and her photographs in London's progressive magazine Oz, which were mostly nude. She has the Sun square Moon and Uranus in, either Scorpio or Taurus. Let's just say Taurio. Okay, so whatever signs it's in, that square would kind of predispose her to doing things that were a bit risque, a bit rebellious, a bit unusual. It might be tempting to argue that a woman who was an avowed Marxist and became such a revolutionary in the field of women's sexuality would remain an Aquarian, as her northern chart suggests. But when we examine the aspects in Greer's chart more closely, we see that her Sun is opposite Pluto. Okay, very strong aspect. Now, this opposition from the signs Leo and Aquarius correlate very well with the insight and transformative power of her whole life expression. You know, she really changed the views of a lot of, certainly a lot of women, probably men as well. Pluto in Aquarius signals an undercurrent of repressed social issues which must be brought up to the surface in order to heal. And with a direct opposition to Greer's sun, she was the person to express this transformation through her creative endeavors. But when we relocate Greer's reverse chart to London, where she spent much of her life after her undergraduate days, her Leo ascendant becomes Aquarius again. So you remember, now we're using astrolocality. I don't know if any of you have had your world map, your astrolocality map done, or read any of the work of Jim Lewis, but he really pioneered. I don't think he invented it, I think somebody else did, but he really made this astrolocality popular last century, which is all about longitude and traveling east to west. So her ascendant and house cusps revolve with longitudinal position, but the internal structure of planets and southern hemisphere signs continue to match Greer's outspoken ideas on gender and politics. The changing of a person's ascendant and houses through astrolocality, also called astrocartography, is important to remember if we're trying to make a judgment of whether this zodiac works or not, because planets which are prominent in one location, being near the cardinal angles of a chart, might become less prominent in another location, thereby making the correlation of this person's personality to their supposed sun sign more difficult. So it's getting complicated, isn't it? All right, so I hope I've put up, enough charts to present a good argument here. I have no vested interest in proving that this theory works or it doesn't work, because whatever happens, we're going to learn something about astrology and how it seems to work through anecdotal evidence. If we can show that this theory does work, then it will show that astrology is caused by the relationship between the Earth and the Sun. And we haven't mentioned anything about the moon, by the way, but the moon definitely does have a physical effect on the Earth with the tides. And since our bodies are made up of, I think it's 70% water, the moon, probably in combination with the sun, would have an effect on us. If we can show that this reverse theory doesn't work, then that would put more weight to the theory that it actually is the stars that are causing astrology to work. And that would be closer to the old definition, or at least most people's idea of what astrology is. I personally don't believe that the stars have a literal effect on us. I think when I say stars, planets and stars as well, I think they're just markers. There's cosmic radiation coming from the universe, everything out there, all the stars, including our sun, which is a star, and the planets, in my opinion, they just act as markers and timers. So as I say, I think this debate might add some new aspects to trying to work out what is causing astrology, what we intuitively believe about astrology. Important to remember when considering these theories, whether the cause of astrology is the sun's energy or whether it's all stars in our universe, however far away they are. It's important to remember that neither of them take away a person's free will. And this is something that astrology often gets a bad reputation for. And I know now we're beginning to question whether we do actually have free will. I don't know if you've seen any Sam Harris videos. But astrology really is not fatalistic. In some ways, astrology is similar to the science of genetics, where just because somebody may have a genetic predisposition to a disease does not mean that they're going to get that disease. You know, they can alter their diet, they can exercise, they can alter many things, their lifestyle, and that can deflect the natural predispositions. So before we make up our mind whether it's a sun, moon, earth relationship or whether it's a star, earth relationship, let's just go back or look at this picture. I don't think I've put it up yet. This is a picture I took last year from Malibu, California, and we can see Mars and Saturn, and they're on the right here, and they're appearing to conjunct. And on the left, there's the constellation of Scorpio. And you can probably see right in the middle, we see Antares, which is the red star in Scorpio. Now, Scorpius, sorry. The light from Antares actually has taken, I think it's over 600 years to get here, 604 light years. So what we're seeing when we look at Antares, we're seeing it as it was in the year 1410. Okay, so in comparison, light from our sun only takes 9 minutes to get to our Earth, and it affects every single living organism on it. The sun also controls the Earth's weather, which in turn affects the inorganic matter through geological processes. So the sun is really the king of life on Earth. Another problem with seeing the stars and constellations as having a direct effect on us is that some stars are not visible from either of Earth's hemispheres. Stars in the so-called northern constellations, such as Algol in Perseus, for example, are not visible in the southern hemisphere countries. So mention Percy Seymour's theory. He proposed that the sun's electromagnetic energy is rather like a lava that is deflected by the planets and interacts with the Earth's magnetic field. So what Seymour was suggesting was that a baby developing in its mother's womb received a genetic imprint from this electromagnetic energy. Bits of information I've put in at the end here will hopefully help people decide which model is nearer the truth, whether it's the Sun-Earth relationship or the Star-Earth relationship. So to sum up, in order to make Southern Hemisphere horoscopes reflective of the seasons which Ptolemy intended, we need to reverse the tropical zodiac for those regions. And a logical way to do this is by having a 6-sign dual or mirror zodiac as suggested. And this adaptive zodiac would also be in harmony with some modern scientific evidence that shows that personality is dependent on season of birth.